The NBA season tips off tonight in Toronto, but the return of basketball has been overshadowed by growing tensions between the league and China. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has been fighting to salvage the league's relationship with its second largest market after the Houston Rockets general manager tweeted in support of pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. The Wall Street Journal article, Adam Silver's fight to save the NBA in China, details the challenges facing the league's commissioner. Ben Cohen is author of the piece, and he joins me now. He's a sports reporter at the Journal. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. So when you spoke to the commissioner, to Silver, he had this to say. He said, and I'm quoting here, "My personal belief is that isolationism doesn't make sense in this highly interconnected world. We have no choice but to engage and to attempt to have better understanding of other cultures and to try to work through issues. What better way than through sport?" So is the league any closer to restoring their relationship with China?
I think that is the big question for the NBA right now. I think they're quite literally playing it day by day. But it's interesting because Adam Silver himself, the NBA commissioner, has heard all of the cries of people saying that they should disengage from China and that they do not need to operate in the world's most populous country. And as he said, I respectfully disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, China is, the NBA is not very welcome in China right now. There are still games that are not being aired on Chinese airwaves as the NBA season is starting. But I think that there is some hope that tempers will cool eventually and that they can begin to normalize that relationship pretty soon.
Ben, do folks at the NBA have a sense of what China wants?
I think that's a great question as well. I mean, I think this is a question that not only the NBA is trying to deal with, but probably American businesses and multinational corporations. And I think you can make an argument even Washington itself is trying to figure out what exactly Beijing wants right now.
Because it's interesting, because Silver feels that the NBA, he calls, is collateral damage in the trade war between China and the U.S. If that is the case, can they really restore or repair this until these trade negotiations are done?
I don't know. And I think that it's important context to remember that the NBA's crisis in China was really playing out against the backdrop of these trade negotiations. So not only was there this nationalist fervor in the air right after the 70th anniversary of Communist Party rule in China, but the players were on the ground and Silver himself were on the ground the day before a round of trade negotiations 2 weeks ago. So it's really impossible to separate the two. And given the fact that they are negotiating a trade deal right now, it makes it even more questionable why so many politicians and elected officials were calling for the NBA to get out of China, right? I mean, this is the U.S. is not breaking off ties with China right now. It's trying to figure out how to work with China. And I think that is it's crucial context to understanding where the NBA is coming from here.
And it's not just the NBA, Ben. You've got these big American companies, Apple, American Airlines, bowing to censorship pressure from China. Nobody wants to walk away from the money, the incredible amounts of money China can offer. But, the fact that Morey deleted the tweet, can you read into that as evidence that the NBA will ultimately have to cave to some of this pressure that China is putting on them?
It's funny. I mean, I think that I think most American companies have to respect China in that sense. But when you talk to people who really study Beijing and how American companies operate in China, what they will tell you is that the NBA actually stood its ground against China more than most American companies do, which is sort of the irony of this backlash that it's getting in both China and the U.S., which is that people say that they actually did do okay in China after the first few days there. So I think that just sort of underscores what a tricky and complex situation this is for the league and for probably most American businesses that are happy that they are not the NBA trying to figure this out right now.
For most folks who don't follow basketball, why is it that the Chinese are so into? I mean, something like 400 to 500 million fans, Ben. Why are they so into basketball?
The NBA was really the first major American sports league to make inroads with China. And part of the reason why people are so bullish about its future is because it is the biggest sport in China, which is the great irony of all this. Now, to make things even more ironic and rich and interesting is that the man who is in charge of the Chinese Basketball Association is a guy named Yao Ming, who is a 7'6" former NBA star. And what team did he play for? The Houston Rockets. And who was his general manager? Daryl Morey himself. So this guy is really in the middle of it. They have such deep ties going back to even the 1970s, the NBA in China. And to watch this strategy that was decades in the making blow up overnight with one single deleted tweet is really astonishing.
It's just so fascinating because it's clear Yao Ming has such loyalties and reverence towards China for helping him. And not only him, his parents were basketball players. They helped the family. And in China, when you have a patron like the government, it actually transforms a generation as it did. But I'm just curious, you know, in your article, Silver says he hasn't spoken directly with former Houston Rockets and current chairman or chairman of the Chinese Basketball Association, Yao Ming. So where do you see this? If Yao isn't talking to the NBA and Daryl Morey hasn't spoken either, where's this relationship headed?
I don't know. I mean, I think that what Adam Silver said is that he hasn't spoken with Yao directly. So they have only spoken through intermediaries. And I think Yao is in a really tricky position here because he knows Daryl very well. He has been friends with Adam Silver since he was drafted in 2002 to the NBA. But he is also essentially a Chinese government official. So it's not like he can really speak openly with the NBA right now. So what the NBA says is that they have gotten Yao Ming's messages loud and clear, even though Silver and him have not spoken directly. But even the fact that they haven't spoken directly is remarkable, considering how close they were. I mean, it was only last month that they were in Beijing at dinner together, bemoaning the U.S. and Chinese national team performances in the World Cup. So they're very close friends. They have ties that go back a long way. And the fact that this relationship has been suspended, if not quite severed yet, is notable in its own right.
Ben Cohen with the Wall Street Journal. Ben, a fascinating interview. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.